Dozens of people from Mayfest who were injured during the storm were treated at a makeshift triage center at the south end of Farrington Field. People were hit by baseball-sized hail. They were treated for cuts and bruises, mostly head injuries, and most of the injuries were considered to be minor. The most seriously injured were taken by ambulance to local hospitals. Families were separated during the storm, and they frantically looked for each other in the triage area. During the worst of the storm, baseball-sized hail fell in the roadway, smashed windshields, and caused several motorists to park under bridges to avoid damage to their car.
That in the car there, the other girl's my wife. All the rest of you just my friends and we're related to.
This family was forced off the road when hail destroyed the windshield of their car while they were driving.
We're driving down the road in that hail and it busted the windshield and glass. We had to pull over and get out because it busted the windshield and throwing glass all in the seats and everything. We had to pull over and bail out.
That little girl's eye is cut, Tim. Do you see?
Yes. Yeah, it's cut. We got an ambulance on the way.
I think it's gone. She was a good truck, but I don't know. What can you say?
Pat Spencer's truck was pushed by the water and other vehicles.
The nearest we can tell is that a car hit it when it was on its side, or hit it once, rolled it on its side, then another car came and hit it, and went ahead and flipped it over and put it in a tree.
Sounded like a cannon going off.
Inside the music hall, production carpenter Stuart Hale says when lightning struck, the computerized lighting and set moving equipment went out.
I was in on the phone. I was calling to make sure everything was all right at my house, and the junction box was right there, and I was on the phone, and it got fuzzy, and I looked over, and about that time it just started arcing and then snapped like a real loud snap at the time of the lightning.
The show was canceled, but hundreds of people in the audience were stranded when their cars were flooded in the parking lot. Now they're working to separate the stacks of cars and figure out how to put on the 2 o'clock matinee. Over at the Starplex, owners of more than 50 flood-damaged cars wait for tow trucks that will take hours to arrive. A concert that was underway was stopped. Water rushed through Fair Park like a river, and hundreds of people couldn't get to their cars.
Came out to the front gate, and you came up here in the sidewalks underwater. People walking through the street with it up to their waist.
Workers climbed 30 feet in the air to repair shattered glass at Hewlin Mall in southwest Fort Worth. It was hit by tennis ball-sized hail. The balls of frozen ice also knocked out skylights at City Hall. Plastic fragments of the skylights fell 4 stories below to the basement atrium, where residents pay their water bills. It's raining inside.
Yeah, and it's raining here on this corner here, and then back over there on the 3rd floor. Mostly that's where they are working.
City officials also report heavy damage at the Botanic Gardens facility and at the Will Rogers complex in the Museum District of Fort Worth. Residents are picking up the pieces throughout the area this morning. They discovered snapped tree limbs and collapsed fences in this west side neighborhood. On the east side, the roof at the Don Carter Bowling Center caved in. Dozens of customers, children and adults, were inside, but no one was hurt. Many of those inside the bowling alley didn't realize the extent of the damage to their cars in the parking lot until morning light.
We're going to have to rebuild it.
What'd you say, maybe you'd be down for how long?
At least a couple of months. You know, about $500,750,000 worth of damage.
This morning, hardware stores all over the area are besieged with customers buying supplies to repair their homes and vehicles.
The hot sellers right now are going to be any tarps, plastics, tarps, duct tapes, plywoods, roofing materials. After last night, I used to think Texas weather wasn't so bad until I seen the hail that come through here last night. And it, like I said, it's big as grapefruit at times, if not a little bigger.
Friends and relatives consoled Mike Frazier, the lone survivor of a high-water drowning that took 5 of his family. A tight-knit family known for singing and playing gospel music.
This family is a family loved by, the Frazier, they're gifted musicians, they're just lovable people.
A regular family outing turned deadly for 53-year-old Jimmy and Norma Frazier. Their grandchildren, cousins 10-year-old Courtney Robertson and 2-year-old Jade Frazier, the daughter of survivor Michael. And finally, Jade's mother, 25-year-old Sandy Donahue of Arkansas, also perished.
You would see them as a family, and they would just be, they were like, encourage you to, you know, to do the same thing like with your family, and you would just see the joy of them being together.
6 of them were together as high water swept a car driven by Jimmy Frazier off Beckley Avenue near the Dallas Zoo Friday night. The family, as part of a weekly ritual, went out to eat as the storm struck. Backed up traffic forced them off Interstate 35. Suddenly, they plunged into pitch black, blinded by rain. A family friend says they drove into rushing water, unaware they were on a bridge. Their car stalled.
Right after that, they say it flipped. Car flipped over, and it's like everybody went there on way from there, and Mike was able to get out, and he said he's the one that was able to. They said they flipped. It seemed like it was something like 60 feet. You know, the car, the drop, and as the count goes, Mike was able to catch hold to a tree, and you know, and he at that point didn't know what had happened to the others.
Along Gaston Avenue, the telltale signs of a freakish flash flood remain. Eddie Livingston says when she looked out of her apartment after the rain kept coming and coming, she thought she was in a dream.
Well, I opened the door and the water started pushing in. When it did, the furniture just started moving. It's coming in here.
And a lot of it flowed into the living room and over her white carpet that's now a dingy gray. As the water rose higher, she fled to her kitchen, climbing onto the stove and then the refrigerator. Eventually, help arrived and the water went down, but everything she owns got soaked.
And I can live with the rest, but it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And I know everybody's glad that that night is over with.
Others along Gaston are also grateful and tried to make the best of it. Jonathan's Place, a foster group home for drug-exposed infants and children, opened in January. But when the water rushed in, it ruined the new furniture and caused up to $30,000 damage to the new flooring. None of the children there was threatened, but the floodwaters covered all the donated items for a fundraising yard sale.
We're trying to keep a sense of humor. Our yard sale is now our flood sale, and our volunteers have been real successful at trying to get rid of some of the stuff that we're not going to be able to use.
Water was just pouring down there. It was a river. It was over the top of most of these cars, pushed cars up against each other, flipped cars on top of each other.
At Fair Park, a wrought iron fence clogged with debris caused a dam at the back door of the music hall. It trapped nearly 50 vehicles belonging to the crew who were working the musical show Stage Door Charlie inside.
It's one of those things, just nothing you can do.
Pat Spencer says the water came too fast and too strong, pushing his truck around like a cardboard box.
The nearest we can tell is that a car hit it when it was on its side, or hit it once, rolled it on its side, then another car came and hit it and went ahead and flipped it over and put it in a tree.
The weather forced the show to be canceled while dozens of cars belonging to the audience filled with water.
All right, well, Bravo Gil ain't his call.
Tow trucks are the hit show at the Starplex now. A river of water rushed through a fence there and flooded more than 100 cars as a live concert inside had to be canceled.
No, I don't think anybody inside really knew what was going on until they came to the parking lot, and that's when you realized it was going to be bad.
Water rose waist high. Cars sitting closest to drains were most heavily damaged. Now officers organize a convoy of tows to the city pound. Inside the music hall, lightning damaged some automation equipment and scrambled other electrical circuits. Until repairs are made, crews will move sets manually, determined that Mother Nature's show won't steal top billing. Anita Vanetti, Channel 8 News, Fair Park.
This is a tornado warning for Tarrant County, specifically west and southwest Tarrant County.
Mayfest volunteers and visitors never heard the urgency of the radio warning. When the decision came to close Trinity Park, people literally ran for their lives.
Panic, sheer panic. They didn't know what to do. There was no place to go.
These two women left Mayfest wet, battered, and frightened. But they were more fortunate than many. They left together.
Go to the front and they'll come out.
It was a night of separation for many at Mayfest. Parents lost children. As the injured began filling up 3 nearby triage centers, a list of the missing was formed. It was a race to rejoin family members and friends.
Having people in 2 or 3 locations has made it a little difficult to reacquaint everybody.
I was in between my mother's legs when all this happened, and some hail hit me on the back of my neck.
The Messer family and 5 of their 11 children, some handicapped, fled Trinity Park with few injuries.
Oh, I'm fine, but I just sick for the people that were out there in that hail, and you couldn't get to all of them.
6 people remain hospitalized in Fort Worth for their injuries from hail, most with lacerations and bruises. It's an experience they don't yet want to talk about, but chances are it's one they won't soon forget. Karen Kelly, Channel 8 News.
The only thing you could do is huddle over the people and try and protect them.
Tom Felsenthal and his daughter were among about 60 people injured at the Mayfest Outdoor Festival, an event that turned chaotic as people scrambled for shelter and looked for family members. Injured were treated at makeshift triage centers while others were taken to the hospital.
The safest place in this whole park last night was in those porta potties.
Portable restrooms withstood the onslaught of hail that cars and most of the 54 Mayfest booths could not. Event organizers say more than half were damaged, especially in the arts and crafts area. That's where still photographer St. Clair Newbern had his work on display.
Well, it just about ruined everything I have here except the stuff that was up against the wall over there. For some reason, some of it survived.
In most cases, the damage was caused by plastic and canvas roofs collapsing. Event organizers say at 7 o'clock a weather advisory was issued over loudspeakers as soon as they received it from the National Weather Service.
That watch was elevated to a thunderstorm warning at 7:10 p.m. and at that time that announcement was made and the park instructions were made to evacuate the park.
Within 15 minutes the full fury of the storm was felt, and with a threat of more bad weather, at least half the Mayfest participants packed up what they could salvage and left. But event organizers say the show will go on, weather permitting.
We consider Mayfest a gift to our community because everyone has fun out here and it's a good time, and then we return all of our proceeds to the community. So I'm disappointed for that.
And then I came down here and I just started screaming, you know, anybody down there, anybody down there. And he was in that tree right there.
Alan Lagarde found the lone survivor out of 6 family members swept into Cedar Creek near the Dallas Zoo. Lagarde saw their car stall in high water rushing over Beckley Avenue. The creek subsided, but Friday night it looked like Niagara Falls to Lagarde. Suddenly, the car rolled over into churning waters. Lagarde heard the cries of Mike Frazier from the top of a tree.
You know, my baby's in the car, you know, but at that point, I think Mike understood that, you know, he kept saying that, he says, I know they're going, I know they're going.
Friends consoled Mike Frazier at the scene of the tragedy. He lost his 2-year-old daughter, Jade Frazier, lost his fiancée, 25-year-old Sandy Donahue of Arkansas, lost his parents, 53-year-old Jimmy and Norma Frazier, and nephew, 10-year-old Courtney Robertson. Friends remember them as a tight-knit, gifted gospel music family.
And again, you would see them as a family, and they would they were like encourage you to, you know, to do the same thing like with your family, and you would just see the joy of them being together.
The search continued for 2-year-old Jade. The family took a tragic detour on the way to a regular Friday night dinner outing. At the height of the storm, they drove into water on the darkly lit route protected only by a meager guardrail. It's not the first such incident here. In Oak Cliff, neighbors complain firefighters took more than 2 hours to launch a full-scale search after pulling Mike Frazier to safety.
The city should do something about it.
In South Dallas, there were similar complaints. The daughter of Cruz Aguilar mourned the loss of their father. The 34-year-old mover drowned in a heroic rescue.
To us, he was always a good person. If he saw somebody in trouble, he would try to help them if he could.
When a car loaded with 3 men inside drove into a flooded underpass in the 2200 block of South Hervey, Aguilar rushed to their aid. After rescuing one, Aguilar returned and got the 2 other men out of the car. They almost reached high ground when suddenly the trio disappeared in a whirlpool. A manhole on a storm drain popped open, sucking the men inside. The storm drain empties into the Trinity a half-mile away. Firefighters continue to stand vigil here, but so far, no sign of the victims. Firefighters also found the body of 69-year-old Lloyd Fancher trapped in his car at a flooded cloverleaf leading onto I-35 at Industrial. Earlier at the same location, 35-year-old Jesus Vega drowned while trying to push a stalled pickup out of the way. Robert Riggs, Channel 8 News, Dallas.
An egret floats down the Trinity River on a piece of debris. The brown river, swollen with runoff from the rains, wraps its way around Dallas. The storm caused a lot of serious damage from flooding, hail, and high winds. On Lemon Avenue at Inwood near Love Field, a roof collapsed. This is the Hager Apparel Company. 2 people were killed here and 21 injured when the roof of this flat building caved in under the weight of heavy rains and high winds. Dogs were brought in to search for victims. Not far away at Central Expressway in Mockingbird, part of the Mrs. Baird's plant also collapsed. It happened about 10 o'clock Friday night at the bakery. After the roof collapsed, a multiple alarm fire broke out. No injuries were reported at Mrs. Baird's, but the shipping area suffered a lot of damage. The Fair Park Music Hall was inundated with a flash flood. Almost without warning, 4 feet of water came rushing down the street, and all the cars in the employees' parking lot were turned into boats. Not only did they get swamped by the flood, some of them ended up on top of one another as they floated around. In Fort Worth, Mayfest in Trinity Park at I-30 and University Drive was devastated by hail. About 60 people were injured, 4 critically by a sudden storm that produced baseball-sized hail. Also in Fort Worth at I-30 and Beach, one of several roofs was seriously damaged. This one is at Don Carter's bowling alley. Part of the roof collapsed and skylights were broken. It's not the first time the bowling alley has suffered damage like this. But hail ravaged rooftops in Fort Worth throughout the city. This is Fort Worth's best-known historic mansion, Thistle Hill. The roof is completely destroyed. Skylights at Fort Worth City Hall were smashed by the tremendous hailstorm that inundated Fort Worth. The mid-cities weren't spared either. Serious roof damage at the corner of Collins and Pioneer Parkway. The roof of Angelo's Pizza Parlor was completely ripped off. The winds were reported as high as 70 miles an hour. The metal roof was crumpled in the parking lot and knocked out power locally. Most of the concern now is with the Trinity River. Take a look at Sylvan at the Trinity. The Sylvan Street Bridge is completely underwater. The river bottom is filled levee to levee. The ground is saturated and the lakes are rising. More rain will likely mean more flooding. Dangerous flash floods are always possible.
The car came by, we saw the stall, then it washed my car sideways and it filled up with water.
So you're stuck?
I'm stuck.
You were at the opera tonight, and you're trying to make it home with a hole in your windshield.
Well, I broke the windshield, got all broken, see, and so I knocked the hole in. So I can see through. I got about 2 miles to go across the bridge, and that's it.
Good luck.
Yeah.
When we left the park, we got to our car because we were right up in front by handicap parking. But the people that were further down, these people really got hurt and couldn't do anything just to help the few that we could get in the car.
Tell me how you felt.
I mean, that hail was hitting them. I mean, when that baby buggy was laying out there was nothing left of the buggy. I don't know what happened to the baby. I mean, we had the grandmother and the sister, and I don't even know who those, but I know some other people took the other people in their car.
The engine died on me. When I got right to the middle, it just died. And I couldn't move it, yeah.
So what happened? How did you guys get off? You crawled on top of the roof?
Yeah, we had to get on top of the roof and put our purse in the plastic bag until the fire department got here and got us out.
I saw that bus come through too. What happened with the bus?
I don't know, he just came through. We were standing and they just told us to sit down because he just threw us all the way to the other side. Yeah, we moved the whole water. Yeah, we had to sit.
So that got kind of scary.
Yeah, it was worse than just standing there.
We had to kick the windows out because the water was too strong, and this man here and another man came to help us. The other guys got swept away, and he saved my life.
It was me and another Spanish guy. When I came down to my car, I seen them
they was trying to help somebody get out the car. So me and the Spanish guy were helping them get out the car. So as we helped them get out the car, all three of them had got the car. His partner was up under influence. And we were trying to go back and get him. And when we went to go get him, two of them went back down in the drainage.
They got sucked away.
They got sucked away. And then his friend came back. And when his friend came back, tried to help the other two, he got sucked away along with him.
Some other people jumped in to try and save him. But they didn't make it out because that thing took him down.
He took his shirt off before he dove into...
This is his shirt. She barely found it by that hole right there.
All of a sudden I heard some crackling noise. And I looked up and the roof was coming down, so it knocked me down. And I rolled up on the conveyor. And as I was on the flat of my back, and the roof was just coming down. Then all of a sudden it got to the conveyor, and it just stopped for a second for me to get off my there.
As of now, we have transported 12 people to the hospital, to local hospitals, various hospitals. All of them with undetermined, or in undetermined condition, undetermined types of injuries that we know right here. We have 2 fatalities.
When I got here, some of them were still trapped in, and we worked, thanks to our Chief Bass and his team of people, absolutely phenomenal job of getting and finding all the people that were trapped in there. The people, they were very professional. They were in shock, and our prayers and our thoughts are with them and their families.
We are very optimistic that everyone is out. However, until we actually remove the roof and can visibly search every aspect of the collision, of the collapse, then we can't determine and say that they are.
What specifically caused the roof to collapse? Do you know? Water pressure?
I don't know. You know, obviously the investigation is going to focus on the storm and the water and so forth, but to say at this point that it absolutely was the water, I can't do that.
My husband and I were in this tent when the hail came, and I was ankle deep in water and praying, and the Lord watched over us. How do you feel about what happened? It's unbelievable. I always see it on TV, but I never think it's going to happen to me.
We suffered extensive damage to the facilities in the park and the equipment, tables, chairs, concession booths, but we've been fortunate that the electrical infrastructure and the things that would help us to continue the event suffered minor damage and will be repaired.
Well, I really was. In fact, we were here last night. Actually, we were still open when the storm hit, so we had a lot of people here to actually see the event happening. But you're always shocked when you come in the next morning and see inventory with no windows, no glass, hubcaps gone, and this sort of thing. It's a little shocking, but like I say, we've been through it before, and in the car business, you kind of, in the back of your mind, you're always, you look for green clouds, and there was a big green one last night. But we're going to be able to recoup and get going, and truth of the matter is we actually already have sold some cars.
We have about 65, I think, windows that were out, upstairs and downstairs all over the building. Water got in through the windows all over the building. It hit, this is the side that the offices are on, so we have a couple computers that had water damage. Office upstairs is damaged. There's just there's water everywhere.
Pretty bad. Everything, hailstones this big around. Plumb through the roof in the back here. Everything on the west side, all the windows are knocked out. You could hear it coming. You could hear it coming across. I was on the front porch for a while. It just pretty much tore up everybody's house around here.
It's pretty extensive inside and out, a lot of structural stuff. When the hail came through, it knocked some holes through the roof. Water came in down through the sides, got the sheet metal on the sheet rock on the ceiling there, and once that got weakened, it just let go in a couple rooms in the house.